Hi, Sarah.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing today?
I could not be better. Thank you for asking.
It's
I'm
really
so
good.
excited for this video.
Yeah, I'm really excited too. I've been really looking forward to this chat because we've been talking about it for so long now, and I'm just looking forward to hearing so much because you've got so much to share, and you're honestly a role model to me in so many ways, and I just want to get straight into it. So, okay, I'm going to start by asking a really pointed question. Tell me about your
Yeah,
Friday self-care practice.
I'm so glad you asked. Fridays, my Fridays have become one of the most important days of my week, and all of my days are important for different reasons. But Fridays are a self-care tool for me. So every Friday, I find a new location. I get my camera and my backpack with my water, and I put my hiking boots on, and I just go. Um, and the reason I value this time so much is being that I'm a stay-at-home parent. I'm in mom mode 24/7. Um, Getting to sort of divest from that, take a step back, and just go frolic in the woods and be childish and be playful and fun, and just kind of untethered is really an important thing for me. It helps me to avoid burnout. It helps me to avoid, just getting bogged down too much. So yeah, Fridays kind of are why I can be a fun person. I think I think I'm a fun person. It's because of Fridays. So thank you for asking.
You're definitely a fun person, and I love hearing about the role of Fridays in sort of regulating your week and providing that break from, like you said, your regular life on the other days. Do you go to the same place every Friday, or is it a different place? Do you decide beforehand where you're going to go? How does that work out?
I am not good at planning. It's not one of my huge strengths. Or sorry, I should say everywhere else I'm good at planning. When it comes to Fridays, I tend to take a back seat on that and just let my hiking partner figure it out because I'm too indecisive. I want to go here, I want to go there, I want mountains, I want water, I want grass, I want like swamps. I would do it all in a day if I could. So I tend not to choose where we go on Fridays. My hiking partner Jason takes over on that for me thankfully. So we have, oh my gosh, we've been hiking for almost a year now, every Friday, roughly. So we've visited quite a few places. We started out going to just waterfalls. It was just every waterfall we could find in the county, just sort of a 1 hour radius. We would hit up all the waterfalls, and then it became, longer trail hikes. We've been to local, I think it's like a conservation park, but they have like birds there. They have like a bird watching little pergola. I don't know what it's called. I'm not an architect. I'm just a person that likes birds. So he's taken us to all sorts of different places. So now that we've gone sort of a full year, we're getting to a place where we're now revisiting old trails or trails that we did in the winter. We're trying to do in the summer now. So we are just all over the place. We put on so many miles in this last year. I just couldn't even tell you how many places.
That just sounds delightful. That sounds so beautiful. Every part of it, like waterfalls. I love waterfalls. I'm really, really, I love anything to do with water. Like you put me next to water and I'm just happy. I think that's because I grew up in a landlocked city with not a lot of water around. And so um, I think I kind of grew up very deprived of like
Yeah,
natural
no, I
bodies.
get that. I get that.
Yeah, but now I live within like 2 minutes of a lake, and I love water bodies as well. And just there's so many birds here. We actually have, this is a really weird thing, but we have a pelican that lives here. I don't know if it's like one pelican or like a little family of pelicans, but it's not like a whole lot of pelicans. It's just this one, two, maybe three pelicans that live there. And so I
Oh,
have the unique story of living in the middle of suburbia and having stepped in pelican poop multiple times. And it's just like the most random story, but I love that you get to see birds and wildlife and waterfalls and do these hikes. And um, it sounds really, really healthy and refreshing and nourishing.
it is. I could not say enough about the not even necessarily like the health benefits. Like, of course, it is beneficial, but I think of it more as like a health barometer.
Mhm.
I used to be a very heavy cigarette smoker. I was a moderate to heavy drinker for many years. So having this kind of stamina to go on these adventures is something that's very new for me. So it's like, it's not just that I'm healthier so I can do these things. It's like I'm doing them so that I can measure how much healthier I've gotten. So they kind of, it works together. It sounds like I'm repeating myself, but I do make a distinction there. So yeah, it is there. It very much ties into my health on so many levels. Getting to do this and getting to just mentally set a goal for myself. It's like, last time was 5 kilometers. Let's do 10. Oh, we did 10. Let's see what 15 feels like. And it just kind of keeps going up. So yeah, getting that little stamina check in is kind of cool, and seeing, just kind of gauging how much work I've done, how far I've come from where I was a couple years ago is really nice surprise aspect of the hiking.
That is fascinating to hear for two reasons. One, because I had no idea that you had, like, this health journey that you were on, where you were like, coming from this place of not feeling as healthy and then feeling healthier and then, pushing yourself in this way. Because where I know you from is the attachment community group on Facebook and your group, The Art of Attachment. And I very much see the same theme happening there, in that you're on this healing journey, and you're on this journey of constantly pushing yourself, encouraging yourself, nourishing yourself, and also really putting it out there, like, just on display, this is what healing looks like. And it's so beautiful, because when I first saw your posts, when I first read your comments, I would never have imagined that this was anything but a completely healthy person who had always been this way. Because in my mind, when you meet someone new, when you encounter something for the first time, your first impression is based on what you see now, and you have no idea where that person's been. So when I hear about your Friday self-care practice, to me it just says, oh, Sarah's this amazing person who loves to do healthy things, practices amazing self-care, looks after her physical health, does all these things, and is just such a role model in every way. But what I don't fully see is the whole journey that got you here, which makes it even more exciting. And likewise with the attachment stuff. I always, when I first joined the attachment community group, and started realizing how little I knew about attachment theory and healing through this, I was just like, wow, I don't know anything. I am so unhealthy in my mind and in my emotions, but there's so much to learn, and I learned so much from you. But as we've been talking, you've been telling me about where that came from, and it makes sense. It makes sense that no one's born completely healthy, in the sense that we all have our trauma or our unhealthy things that we grow up with, or just anything. But like, it's more about how do we get on the journey of healing, and how do we move forward on that. I'm using a lot of words because I'm fangirling a little bit here, but please, can you talk about the attachment stuff as well? And how do you feel about, you know, um, how these two spaces connect? Like, do you find that your physical health journey is similar to your emotional health journey, or is it like completely different? Or
I mean, there are some distinct parallels, that I'm happy to talk about. But first, I want to thank you for saying this, because I often feel, is it is when I get vulnerable and I get honest with kind of my roots, or just sort of, the skeletons in my closet, I guess. I kind of always have this worry that it invalidates, or it discredits, my work in the groups online. It's like I try to bring some sort of slap together form of education or information or knowledge for people. I try to bring strategies. I try to bring just validation for people. And so I often worry that when I reveal the truth, it's like, yeah, I was a mess. I'm still a mess. I was a mess up until 20 minutes before this interview. So I worry that tends to cancel out, all the things that I'm trying to share with people. I'm trying to connect with people on. So I just wanted to thank you very, very clearly. Thank you, for alleviating some of that, imposter syndrome that brings up. So
Yeah, not at all. Yeah, if anything, it just makes it even stronger. It just makes it so much more encouraging that I feel like I am still a mess. I'm still very much a full, complete mess. And it's just really heartening to know that people can be in a state where they feel like a mess and come out of it and, be on the trajectory that you're on.
Dip back into it sometimes, even take little breaks in, our messy self, and then jump back on our growth trajectory. So yeah, no, I don't think the two are mutually exclusive. I don't think in order to be healed, you have to erase your mess. And I don't think in order to erase the mess, you necessarily have to be fully healed. I think they can just kind of, everything just works organically. Um, and then to answer your question, to go back a step without going on too many tangents, yeah, I definitely would say that my attachment journey and my health journey have very much gone together. So for those who are familiar with attachment theory, I am just your textbook anxious, preoccupied. I don't know if it's like if I'm stating the obvious. I feel silly saying it now just because I don't know. I like to think I'm somewhat removed from that origin point in my story. So it does feel kind of silly to admit sometimes how bad it used to be. I don't want to say bad, just how intense it was. I was very intensely anxious. I was very, yeah, I followed all the anxious, preoccupied attachment rules basically. If you've ever looked at the list of behaviors, I was 10 out of 10. So one of the things that I've found with working through my attachment is it became a lot easier for me to not only address, but just identify where I was having blocks or obstacles in my way that were attachment based. So something like taking a day off from my life is what it feels like. Taking a day off of my mom life, my role as a spouse, my role as a step parent. Stepping back from all that really used to cause me a lot of, oh, it was very destabilizing. It was like I was breaking the rules of codependency. I was breaking the rules of like what an anxiously attached person is supposed to do, which is like you're supposed to be always on. You're supposed to be always seeking affirmation. You're supposed to be, setting your needs aside to deal with everybody else first. And so taking my Fridays was, oh, that was a gamble. That was terrifying. It was very unsettling for my anxious self to say, nope, can't help you. I'm going out. Oh, I know it's inconvenient for you, but I'm gonna go play in the woods. Like, who says that? So yeah, to answer your question, yes, they absolutely go hand in hand. A lot of the choices I made to get physically healthier were very much predicated on the decisions that had been made in pursuit of emotional health and attachment health. So yeah,
That
can't
sounds
have one
like
without the other.
Sorry?
I said you just can't have one without the other.
Yeah, yeah, and that's something that I've noticed in my own health as well. My physical health has started to, improve. Like I've started to deliberately take steps to, just pay more attention to how I'm looking after myself. And I find that the more I look after my emotional well-being, the more I look after my mental well-being, it spills into other areas as well. It spills into my relational health. It spills into my physical health. It spills into my mental health in general. It's really, really fascinating to see how it all ties together, even if that's not the original intention. Um, and what really resonated with me was how you said about your Friday self-care being, not fully compatible with anxious, preoccupied, natural leanings. And I'm anxious leaning myself, and so I get that. I get that, need to be switched on all the time, and the anxiety that you feel around, ooh, what happens if I just let go? Like just dropping something and saying, I will come back to this later is such a challenge sometimes. And I know that there will be people watching this as well, who will feel that anxiety, who will feel like, no, I'm not allowed to take a break. I'm not allowed to do this because there's a sense of I don't deserve to take a break, or if I take a break, things will fall apart. I need to be here to hold this up. But
Mhm.
realizing that stepping back and the world still keeps turning, that's freeing. And
It's so freeing. It is huge. It is huge. And I find this a lot in not even just my attachment circles, but in like my parenting circles. I find and I have, oh bless them. Oh, I have some of the best friends when it comes to mom friends. I know it's really hard for parents to make friends in this world, and in this state of things. It's really hard. I've been so blessed with my mom friends. Hi guys, you're maybe watching this. I love you. And I always have to come back to, if everything is leaning on you, and you know that you are the string that holds everything together, then you can't afford to fall apart because that is when everything falls apart. So this is kind of how I try to break through that, that just wall, that insulating barrier of mom guilt. That's, no, I can't take a break. No, I can't leave. No, I can't go out. No, I can't just go waste time shopping for half an hour by myself. My kid, my kid, my kid. And it's like, yeah, if you're what holds everything together, then we need to make sure we hold you together. It's like, I know the world's not gonna, stop being as heavy as it is, but yeah, we can't afford to let you just kind of crumble under the weight of it. So fortifying the person to continue living their life in whatever capacity they need to, that's kind of my focus, whether it's attachment or whether it's just general self-care, or if it's parenting or if it's art. It's like, take care of you first. Everything else can wait because it has to wait. Because if you're not there, you got nothing. There's nothing for you to worry about anyway if you fall apart. So let's just start there. And yeah, that's that.
Well, that sounds amazing, and I think that's really really encouraging to me. So it's a beautiful reminder that if I feel like everything's depending on me, then that's time to regulate. That's time to take a step back and say, well, do I want it to be this way? Is it comfortable? Because it's not going to be sustainable in the long term.
Sustainable.
Hmm.
Yeah, sustainable and healthy and empowering. And yeah, those are the things that, and I don't like to good or bad or right or wrong things. When I think of things, I find that to be very, very limiting thinking. So I don't think in terms of right or wrong. As Philippe from our group would say, normalize without moralizing. So that's a key phrase that I go back to. And so yeah, it's not about whether you're doing it right or you're doing it wrong, or you're doing good or you're doing bad. It's like, is this healthy? Is this functional? Is this sustainable? Is this nurturing you? Is this empowering you, or is this draining you? Is this a cycle? Is this something that's you're running on autopilot and it's just draining and draining all your resources? So yeah, I don't good or bad or right or wrong, but yeah, healthy and unhealthy are some pretty big qualifiers that I use often.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such it's a freeing way to be, because when you're gooding and badding things, then there's that sense of judgment, there's that sense of shame, and there's that sense of restricting ourselves from fully exploring possibilities.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, when we think of it in terms of healthy and unhealthy, it frees up our choice and it makes us more of an agent in our life, rather than someone who's being commanded to walk on the right path, kind of thing.
yes. Oh, good connection. Yeah. See, I like how you have a unique way of seeing things. So I appreciate the additional nuance that you add to that. Knowing your story, I think it makes it more, yeah, more poignant for me to hear that from
Thank you. Yeah,
you.
because I guess it does tie into like my religious history a little bit, and where everything was about what is sin and what is not sin. And so it was like, I remember this point in my life when I was completely obsessed with micro understanding sin, to the point where everything in my life was, it had to pass through a test of 6 questions. And an act in itself wasn't good or bad, but I had to analyze the intention, the impact, the everything. And I'm talking about things like eating a biscuit. There would be 6 questions before I could eat a biscuit, before I realized, like, is it sinful for me to eat this biscuit right now? And sinful is much heavier than, is it good for my health or is it bad for my health? It was more like, um,
These moral ramifications are so
is
heavy.
God
That's so
going to
over
be
our life.
displeased?
Oh my God.
Exactly. The moral ramifications, that's exactly right. It's like, can I go to hell for eating this biscuit? So,
Hope not. I'll see you there, but still.
there was
This is
actually
actually very funny. Sorry.
no, no, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I'll remember with what after you.
You remember better than I do. I was just gonna say, I find it very interesting that was your sort of your process or your protocol for things, because I remember when you first joined the attachment community and we had our first couple little back and forth. I remember thinking, oh my God, she is such a good student. Oh my gosh, she has this way of just absorbing and just like a very distinct mindfulness. And I find that's something you can't teach people. It's kind of either they come to the work with the ability to be mindful and to be analyzing and aware of things, or they're not there yet. And so I remember when you first showed up, it was like, she's got this. She's gonna figure this out in no time because you already had all these tools and strategies for analyzing. And so I find it fascinating that that could very well be where you got to practice those skills. I like to hope that it's a little less daunting to look at things now. No 6 questions are going to help. Please.
Absolutely. Like, I actually feel like there's this. I've definitely gotten rid of a lot of my religious background and baggage, but there are definitely things I hold on to, such as the deep analysis or like thinking through things, because I think the stakes were so high that we had to learn how to think like that. Because when heaven and hell is the stakes, you kind of do tend to start to think pretty deeply.
It's a risky gamble, I think. Yeah, you don't want to get that wrong.
Yeah, but I actually remember hearing a sermon which was titled, I'm not kidding, How to Drink a Glass of Orange Juice to the Glory of God. I'm not joking. This is on the internet. If you Google it, you will find it. It was a sermon by someone I don't want to name because, it was a very influential preacher. But
I'm
how to
rethinking
drink.
everything I've been saying. I don't think I ate my dinner right.
So yeah, it's just such a beautiful switch over to this other side where I'm still allowed to think through things deeply, because I do enjoy thinking through things deeply. I really love words, I love thought, I love articulation. But now
It shows.
instead of, sorry.
It shows. It's very evident. You're playing right into your skill set. This is perfect.
I love that, thank you. But yeah, but now I'm able to use it not out of fear and not out of, am I matching up to someone else's standard, but more, am I creating for myself the life that I want? And this actually makes me think about something else that you talk about sometimes, which is your process of, you know, creating the life you want, which the process of your 3 C's, culling, cultivating, and curating. Can you talk us through your process of that a little bit?
Mm. Now this might sound oh, I try to be careful in I guess the advice or the articles that I write. I try to be very mindful that not every piece of advice is going to work for everybody for where they are when they read it. Um, so take this with a grain of salt. Um, for the first phase, for the culling, um, I I closed a lot of doors. Many of them were permanent. Many of them were for indefinite periods of time. Um, Many of them, just I wouldn't say I regret any of them, but I will say some of them were harder than others at the time. But it was ruthless. It was I had lived so long in just so burdened with doubt. I was so quick to question myself. I was so quick to take anybody else's version of events true over mine. Um, I think I've said this to you before. My life felt like one big gaslighting experiment. It's like, oh, let's see how much we can tinker. And so when I felt like I finally woke up from this, and I'm like, oh my God, this is what's been going on. I've been just absolutely destroyed by all this doubt and this second guessing and this over analyzing and not analyzing correctly, but very much dissecting and spiraling very quickly on everything. I just shut it down. That was it. It was a clean cut. It was just nope, I'm done. If it didn't align with me, if it didn't make me happy, if it didn't agree with me, I was done with it. My best friend, I hope she's also watching this. She was one of the doors. Actually, I have 2 best friends I can mention at this point. The 2 of them actually, they were both doors that I closed at that in that period in my life, and thankfully they're both back. Hi guys. Um, but I mean, I don't regret the choice that was made in that culling phase because it was necessary for me. I think it also, in a roundabout way, I think it may have been necessary for them at that time because I know they both have undergone an incredible amount of growth. I'm so proud of them. Sounds weird to say I'm proud of them, but I am. I couldn't be happier with their trajectories that they're on. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was just yeah, be prepared to shut all doors that you don't want to look at right now. Just close it, shut it down, cut it off, whatever. And it was hard. It was very isolating. It was there was a lot of, I think, depression involved that I have to admit now. At the time, it was righteous anger. At the time, it was a lot of just, I'm done. I'm done trying. I'm done this. I'm done that. I'm done being this way. I'm done living this way. I'm done feeling this way. I'm over it. And I shut everything down. So I think that isolation is really what kind of lends itself to the second stage of this, which is the cultivating. And so it was like, yeah, I've got this garden that I just ripped all the weeds out of, and now I've got this barren plot of land that is my life. Now what? So at that point, I was just scattering friendship seeds willy-nilly without a care in the world. Oh, I had some doozies come out of that. Those were not permanent friendships. I wish them no ill will. Obviously, I don't. I hold nothing against any of these people, but there was a lot of experimenting to figure out what fit and what I wanted in my life and who I wanted to be around. And there was a lot of hit and miss there. So yeah, the cultivating, the second phase, that was the try everything, give it a whirl, figure it out, say yes to everything until something sticks. And I think this is where I kind of came to a place of, I call it my radical acceptance phase. It was just, sure, try it. Therapy? I'll try it. I don't know. Like horoscopes? Yeah, maybe it's horoscope stuff. I don't know. Chakras? I'll look into those. Maybe that's what's going on. Maybe it's a chakra thing. I don't know. I said yes to everything. I was exploring everything. I was trying everything. And for not being a very experimental person, I think it was interesting for me. Sort of, it was my first foray into the world outside of anxious attachment for myself. Being an anxious where everything is kind of calculated to the 15th degree before you can make a move. This was kind of like, sure, to heck with it. I don't care. I'm doing whatever. I don't care. It was messy. It was all very, very messy. That messiness is what brought about the third stage, which is where I like to think I'm in now, where I'm curating, I'm fine tuning, I'm honing in on the things that actually do matter and kind of letting the rest fall away naturally. So it's not quite the high turnover rate of the cultivating phase. It's more of a mindful approach. It's more saying yes to the things that do specifically spark something in my heart, in my soul, in my life, and in my relationships, like whatever it looks like. Yeah, so I think that's what landed me here. Thankfully, I was at a point of recognizing when you reached out to me. It was like, yeah, you know what? This really is something that just, oh my God, this lights my soul on fire. I'm just so, I gotta do this. I gotta do this. This is something that I got really passionate about. So that's how I believe that I'm in the phase of kind of curating the things in my life, like my shelf and my chair.
Beautiful. That's absolutely, it just did so many things to me inside while I was hearing you speak about those things. You've got such a way with words. You've got such a way with, combining concepts and illustrations and personal experience in a way that it just ties it into this beautiful story that is just so easy to flow along with. And
I didn't even take a break to breathe. If that was overwhelming, I would understand.
I did not need a break to breathe because I'm like, wow, this is taking my breath away and I'm okay with this. This is great. I just find myself really captivated by that mental image of culling all the, all pretty much everything. You talked about closing so many doors and then being left with an empty patch of land for you to plant your new garden, which is your life. And it just makes me think about how this is all about a shift from living a life on autopilot to living a life of mindful choice. And
Yes.
it's empowering even just to hear about it, because to think about the fact that, we're all living our lives to a certain extent guided by what the world tells us we should do, what we've been raised to believe, what our received values are rather than what our chosen values are. And we follow along this path that we've been plonked onto rather than a path that we're choosing to walk. But anyone at any time can really stop and take a breath and say, well, okay, I'm going to reevaluate. And it's funny, this really ties in with something that I read recently where they were talking about how instead of, you know, seeing your life as, you know, this is how it is, and I'm going to see what's working. So starting with, instead of starting with the curating stage, you think of what if my life was a blank canvas? So like you said, your empty plot of land. And what if I could only add back into it the things that I want? And I think your three-step journey of culling, cultivating, and curating is pretty much exactly that. It's like start from a blank slate, choose what you want, put it into your life so that you have the life that you're choosing rather than the life that you feel compelled to continue with. And I'm just so inspired. I'm so inspired by this because there's something about gardening metaphors, especially, that really speak to me.
Yes, amen. I wrote one just recently for the Art of Attachment group, which is, I mean, I call it the Art of Attachment. It's really just, it's like a little support circle for artsy people. I think it's kind of more what it is. It's more on the chit chats and less on the big theory. But I did write a piece recently that was, again, it was a gardening metaphor because that's kind of, I think that is the best metaphor for life. It represents the circle of life very, very beautifully, I find. And it was talking about weeding when watered. So if you weed a garden, if you've ever noticed going out and you weed the garden after it's rained, everything, the weeds pull up so much easier because the ground is saturated, it's softened, it's relaxed, it's everything's fine. So it's willing to surrender those weeds. I very much hold the same philosophy to be true for people, where it's, you know, if we're trying to uproot some really nasty, negative, limiting, just kind of hurtful belief that we hold about ourselves or our partners or whatever, it's always best to do that when it's rained, when we're saturated, when we're nurtured, our soil is as drenched in our life and our livelihood as it can possibly get, because that is when we're able to pluck out those little nasty weeds and release them. You know, you can't do that in a drought. You can't do that when you're already so deprived and you're so without connection, you're without safety, you're not having any outlets or any ability to regulate. You're dry at that point. So trying to pull those bad ideas or those doubts or those fears or those hurtful things out is really a lot harder when we're in that negative space. So yeah, weed when watered. I could go about garden metaphors all day, all day. I'm so glad that you said that. I'm glad that we share this.
I really, really like that image of weeding when watered, because just the difference between working on something when there's resistance and friction versus when there's not that resistance and friction, it's the damage that you can do when you're pulling out a weed. Like, you're going to leave the roots in, or you're going to, you know, accidentally hit another plant nearby, or whatever. It's just, yeah, it's just so much more satisfying to work on things when you can deal with the resistance first. I love that image of loosening it up, softening the soil first. Beautiful,
I'm
beautiful.
so glad that we have so many things that we can share. So
I know,
same,
right?
hashtag same.
Hashtag same. So you talked about the Art of Attachment group and how it's, you know, this beautiful support place where I've seen so many people sharing such, you know, personal journeys, they're sharing their artwork, beautiful artwork. For the longest time, I was really hesitant to post anything on there because I'm like, I cannot interrupt how beautifully, like, there's so much beautiful stuff happening. And then finally, I'm like, you know what? I belong as well. I'm going to put my stuff as well. And so I've started
So
posting
glad
that.
you did. I'm so thankful that you did share that because that one was just so profound. The clip that you posted. Oh, but I get it. I mean, I at times I'm like, I don't want to interrupt these guys because the amount of just pure talent in these people is mind blowing by itself. But the amount of just honest, dignified vulnerability that these complete strangers come to this group and they're like, here's my life, here's my story, here's my pain, here's my love, here's my everything, and they just lay it on the table. And that is something that I feel like you can only get that with other creative types. I don't want to limit it to artists because I know not everybody's like an art person, but they're a creator of some kind, whether, you know, if it's music or if it's cooking or if it's children or like whatever it is, people can create in so many ways. So I don't want to limit it to art. But yeah, like I think that's something that only creative types of people can really tap into. I don't think we feel anything a little bit, which is not always great for us.
I know,
Um,
right? It's
Sometimes it would be nice. Could I get a break? Could I just have like a 2 instead of a 10 today? That'd be nice. But
the Fridays are full.
um, oh,
But I really, it's I'm speechless. Look at that. I'm speechless. Just like you said, people just presenting their lives in that space and just saying, okay, here's my life, here's my vulnerability, here's my, emotional experience. These are the things that I'm going through, and everyone else is just holding space for everyone else and engaging with so much compassion and so much support and with so much just open-heartedness. And it's just such a beautiful space to be. And I really think that that's a big reflection of you as the curator of that space. And you're leading by example, because I've always felt from the first time that I joined the other group, the attachment community group, um, just seeing the open-hearted, giving, supportive way in which you interact with people, it makes people feel so seen, so respected, so valued. And I remember feeling many times, I'm like, why is Sarah so interested in everyone? Like, how does she do it? How does she have this energy? How does she have this space within her to offer this um, this stable ground to so many people to just come and start processing their own work? Because ultimately everyone has to do their own work, right? And we're all on our own journeys of healing, but to know that there is someone who is offering you this space to come and process, it's just magical, and it's healing. And I've really felt so personally healed by so much of this. So yeah, thank you for everything that you do in these spaces that you run. It's
thank you. Thank me. Thank you. That was a true gift. That was yeah. No, I need a minute to absorb that. It, I created the space because it was an intersection that I saw that was missing. Because I know there's a lot of people who talk about art, and there's a lot of people who talk about, sort of their wellness or their just personal development. And so the only reason I made this space, it wasn't, I didn't feel like I had anything to give. It was just I hadn't found a space that had both of those elements yet. And so again, I'm in the curating phase. I'm like, man, I've been cultivating all these relationships in other groups. Why don't I curate them into this group? And so that was just an extension of my process, was creating the space and just saying yes to something that felt like it was right for me. I mean, when it comes to what I put into it, it doesn't feel like something costly for me. It doesn't feel like any expense to my resources. I'm not overextending myself in any way. It just feels like the most, I guess, natural state to be in now now that I removed all that anxious the anxious treadmill. Once I stopped walking that, it was like, well, shit, I can go anywhere now. I had all this extra energy freed up, and yeah, I guess it's really just a matter of healing and developing the strategies to regulate myself and noticing when I'm doing things that are not fulfilling me or not nourishing me, and then knowing what I need to do to get to a better place. And so it's like I have fewer draws on the gas tank and I have more gas going in. So I'm just, it doesn't tire me. I don't know. People keep asking me, oh, how do you do this? And I'm like, I'm just being a person. I'm not doing anything extra. So yeah, it just, I kind of get a kick out of it because it feels natural, but people keep thinking that it's something more. And so I just go with it. I don't know.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's the best kind of answer, I think, because to know that so much healing is possible with someone who is not damaging themselves to provide that healing. Like it's, do you know what I'm saying? Like there's in so many times in relationships or in life in general, like we give a lot and it costs us, but we feel like we have to because that's, like you said, the anxious tendency or whatever. But yeah, when there's healing, when we let go of that, when we realize that no, we're actually not responsible for anything else, and then we're giving from a place of freedom. We're giving from a place of, I think there was a metaphor that you used, yesterday, about the candles. Instead of pouring from a finite
I knew you
bucket.
were gonna do that. I knew you were gonna bring that up. And I'm like, man, this is some profound stuff I say while I'm scrolling through memes on Facebook in my pajamas. I'm no author. I'm just talking.
It's true
But
though.
no, that is the most authentic way I could actually describe that. Is yeah, it doesn't feel like I'm pouring from a bucket where I'm gonna run out. It feels like I have a candle now, and here, you take it, and then you just do, and everybody lights up, and it doesn't cost anybody anything. And I think every person that realizes that candle can be shared, I think it lights up the world. That is what I see in my group, and in the larger group. It's just like, people are getting to a point where they're like, wow, I don't have to live this way anymore. I don't have to hurt. I don't have to be exhausted or miserable or resentful. I got to tell somebody about this. Here, guys, get over here, So I think it's that global community. It's really just sharing the candle. That's all it is.
Absolutely. And I just love the limitless nature of it. I just love how limitless it is because, like you said, if it's not costing us anything and we can keep sharing our light and we can keep lighting up other people's candles and everyone can, have their own light, it's just, it's limitless. It's incredible. Okay. So you're an artist as well, obviously, because
I
you're
am.
passionate about art and you have shared some incredible artwork on your group, The Art of Attachment, as well as you're just one of the most artistic people that I know. Do you have any artworks that you'd like to show us or talk us through today?
I'm so glad you asked. So recently, this is kind of where my art and my attachment really joined forces. And I started a series. It was called was it Emotions Embodied or Embodied Emotions? I can't remember now. Oh, I'm not good at this. So it started with I was trying to break out of some painter's block. I was stuck. I had been doing the anxious treadmill. I was stuck in commissions. I was painting for everybody but me. And so I just wrapped up a really busy holiday season. I did work I was proud of. I did some projects I was not proud of. But yeah, it just kind of left me feeling really super drained. And I was like, my God, how am I going to break through this block? How am I going to sort of step back into the flow? How will I get back into resonance with the good things that I want, the positive energy, the creative flow? Like, how do I get into resonating with that again? Because I felt like I lost my frequency. And so what I ended up doing was to break out of my artist block, I painted what I thought the visual interpretation would be of that resonance feeling. And this is why the piece is called Resonance. Surprise. This is, I don't know if you can see that. Is my lighting, what's
Yeah.
it doing? So this was the first of what ended up becoming a really interesting series of paintings that I did. And I don't know, I'll post it on my page again. I'll add the link to my page so you can see it in the still shot. But the colors, I really wanted to capture just that vibrant, happy, energetic, just not feeling contrived, not feeling forced, just feeling very just organic and just the most pure form of existence was what I wanted to capture. So I went with the blues and the teals and even the yellow. I'm not even a big yellow person. You can hardly see it, but it is yellow. And then what it shows in the background was there was these lines of light beams coming out from the sort of center of this figure. And what I was hoping to convey is just, it all reaches one single circle. So the barrier of those light beams, for me, I was hoping to capture, sort of the realm of our power. We can only have so much influence. We can only control so much, and it's just within our own circle. And so for myself, healing that anxious attachment where I was constantly reaching out of the circle to control things I couldn't, trying to represent, the acceptance and just the peace that comes with taking ownership of just what's inside your circle and not overreaching anymore. So that was the story of this piece. So the lighting is again, it's not
I think if you hold it up right to your camera, I think it adjusts the light. Yeah, there you go. Oh,
There,
beautiful.
so this
Yeah.
this is resonance.
I can circle
And
now.
then of course me being the most dramatic, anxious, preoccupied person I could think of that I knew at the time, I'm still the most. Yeah, no, I still am. I had to follow it up with something that captures my dark side. I like to pick on my dark side a little bit. She's a little dramatic, but she's still there. I honor her every day. And so I followed it up with this piece.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
this one is titled Desolate, because what else would a dramatic person call a painting? And so I guess the main symbolism in this one is the real, like the absolute darkness around the head, is the thoughts, the swirling, dark, consuming beliefs that we hang on to. And then this gold, I don't know if you can see this gold here, and this very sharp diamond um, was really just meant to kind of capture this. It's a barrier that I think a lot of us maybe experience, where our misery can kind of seep out, and yet nothing seems to break in. So it's like we can influence outwards. We can share our misery with people, and maybe they pick up on it, or maybe they absorb some of it, or they take it personally, or they internalize it, whatever. Um, but ultimately, like the hardest thing I find as an anxious person is being receptive and being in a place to actually absorb what comes back to me. So I get a lot of I shouldn't say a lot. I have people in my life who say a lot of very kind things. You should know you are one of them. But just people who really are so uplifting and so supportive, and just like they're just so affirming. And I remember so distinctly hearing them, and it would just like bounce off, and it would like do, 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 and just fall. It would just, nothing would permeate that isolating barrier. So that was the story behind this guy. Um, I did not always paint such dramatic stuff. I used to be a really fun, lighthearted, kind of quirky painter, but this is the direction I've gone recently, and it's ended up making some really really big connections for me with people who have seen this art and it's spoken to them, and they wanted to connect and talk more. It's been a very honest expression for me. So
Yeah, both of those pieces are just so powerful. Like, I noticed that I hadn't initially noticed the circle the first time that I saw the first picture.
it is
And
harder to see. Yeah,
and
it's
now
not
that you've
as.
talked about it and talked about the meaning of it and what it represents, it just makes so much sense. It's like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. And what really struck me in the second picture, apart from obviously your description about the sharp diamond and how things, positive things, affirming things from the outside would just fall off, which is so powerful. I think that's an experience a lot of people can resonate with. But what really struck me was the contrast between the head and the feet. Um, the head is a bit of an explosion. Like there's this sense of, like you said, it's very dramatic. It's very intense. It's very it's uncontained. And the feet, almost in contrast, it feels like there's so much in the head that there's not enough for the rest of the body, and so the feet just turn into like this trickle and this drizzle, and it's like and the definition cannot reach there because of how much space the head is taking up. And it just feels like my experience sometimes. I live in my head a lot. I live in my head a lot. And one of the things I love about art is how it frees me to not think with my head and not think in words sometimes.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
just being able to think with my hands, being able to think with my feelings. It's almost like it's restoring some of the definition to the other parts of my body and taking away from some of that. So that's just some of what stood out to me when I saw the second piece that you showed.
That is cool. So I had a couple people who didn't like this. So the rest of the series, like I said, it's posted on my page, and I did share a couple of them in the Art of Attachment group. But one thing that people didn't like was like, why don't they have any feet? And this was done on purpose, and I feel like nobody caught that. Nobody noticed, like, oh yeah, no, 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 every single one looks the same. I wonder why. Um, it's because I wanted to capture the sort of the it's very I don't know what the so I like to be grounded. I like to feel like my feet are on the ground. That is when I feel like I'm at my best. And so when I am just deeply experiencing something emotional, something intuitive, something that's not necessarily a verbal experience, but it's just sort of a very over-encompassing experience. I find it to be very ungrounded. So I find that my feet are no longer planted on the ground. I feel very just kind of floaty. It's like the above the body sensation. And I think that kind of factors in somewhere into polyvagal theory, if you're familiar with that. Mike, he's one of our fantastic mods in the attachment community. He's very well versed in this. And so I think how it factors in with his work is like, as we increase in our stress or we increase how amplified our emotions and sensations are, we can actually start to lose some of that grounding, some of that bodily sensation and awareness and that sense of self in our bodies on the ground. You know, we can sort of float away from that when we're experiencing some really heightened dysregulation of any kind. So that was what I wanted to sort of convey by not putting any feet in them. I think people just thought I didn't know how to paint feet. Guys, no, that's not what this is about. But it's art, so you know, at the end of the day, interpret it how you will. I may or may not know how to paint feet. It's so far undetermined, but yeah, that's why they don't have feet. That is why each of the bottoms of these each tell a bit of a story.
That's beautiful. Am I allowed to ask to see the third in that series?
It's actually like the seventh, but it is the first big one.
Okay.
Oh, this is gonna get really this is gonna be very ungraceful. It's really big. Okay, all right. Okay. This, I
Wow.
don't think I ever formally actually named this piece, which is funny because it is the one I'm most proud of. So I'm gonna zoom in a little, closer. I can't see. Tell me if I bump the camera. So
This is good.
there we go.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, this is sort of the big sister of resonance, the big sibling. I don't even like to gender them, but this is, yes, this is the evolution. I like to consider it kind of it's a bit of an ode to both pieces in a way. So it has the color scheme of resonance that we looked at, and then this character, I think, kind of represents the same character as the painting Desolate. And in the way that it has the darkness, it has like the shapelessness of, you know, something profound, something, you know, is it grief, is it loss, is it depression, is it, I'm big on talking about depression. That's kind of one of the things I find fascinating. So yeah, I liked sort of the duality of including both, and I think it represents kind of where I'm at in my journey, where it's like, yeah, this is who I like to be, this is how I'm most comfortable. That's I can, yeah, I find I like to represent this green color in the color tones as being just grounded, aligned, healthy, functional. But there's always going to be that part of me, I think, that yeah, where the darkness still lives. But maybe she's not so much running the show anymore. She's kind of she's just witnessing and being witnessed, I think, is, yeah.
I think
I was
that's
worried the little hand. Does it look like it's waving, or does
so. With
like, hi guys? Is that what it looks like? I don't know.
honestly, to me, that little hand is what makes the whole painting. Like for me, that
No, I've
hand
heard that a couple
haunted me.
times. I really have.
It's haunted me from the beginning. What it actually feels like to me, and this might be completely different from what you've intended, but for me, that feels like especially the contrast between the slightly blurry rest of the body and the very sharp hand. What it feels like to me is there's depth and there's glass, like almost like
Yes.
a fog shower.
Good.
Yeah,
That
and
is what I was going for. It's like a hand on the glass, and the person is just on the other side.
yeah, and
But
that's the only way
maybe
that
over.
yeah, that's the only way that it makes sense to me because of how clear the hand is and how not clear the rest of the body is, because it's like that the hand is what is reaching out into the, you know, into the outside person. And it's kind of like the fact that it's the hand and not anything else makes it so gentle, and it makes it so relational to me. It's, I like the words you used before about witnessing and being witnessed, because they're keeping their head back, witnessing, you know, with their eyes from further back. So it's not an aggressive let me out, but at the same
Mhm.
time it's a
That
touch.
might be a little less impactful if I did this for the painting. That's why I like this better.
Yeah, this is just so it's so peaceable. It's so gentle. It's so non-threatening. It's
Yeah.
to me, if someone reaches out with their hand instead of reaching out with their whole body, I feel very much safer. Like there's something about the imagery. There's something about your choice of how this person is reaching out. It's so soothing and it's so accepting. Like to me, it just says, yeah, this person has a place here. This person might not
Yes.
feel like they belong, and they might not look and act the same way as the outside person, but they belong. And they're is this an attachment word? Their bid for connection is almost kind of,
Are popular in the Gottman method, I think,
oh yeah,
references bids, but I think it is definitely a part of the attachment dynamics.
yeah,
And
but it's
that is, I wanted to capture, it, you're welcome to come, but like it doesn't seem to want to overwhelm anymore. It's just the occasional like, hi, I'm here, and I'm like, yeah, I see you, and it's just that's it. That's all it needs to be now. It doesn't need to be such a battle for supremacy anymore. So I really like that gentleness is what comes through for you.
yeah, yeah,
That
that's
really,
exactly
yes,
what's
that feels
conveyed to me.
good. I'm glad to know that. Because yeah,
Mm,
art can be uncomfortably good, but like uncomfortable in a raw way, but I didn't want that piece to be one that made people not feel positive in a way. I wanted it to have an overwhelmingly, yeah, gentle feel to it. Gentle is a good word for it. That is a perfect word for it, I think. I'm
yeah,
just gonna drink it. Oh
yeah, go for it.
my God, we've been talking for like 75 hours.
We probably should wrap
I
up soon.
love it. This is a
But
great day.
no, I'm really, really enjoying this chat. I'm learning so much from it, and I'm just, as we've been going through this chat, my whole like not only my own life and my own experiences have just been going through my mind and like, yeah, that fits in there, that fits in there, everything makes so much sense. But also I'm just thinking of so many people that I'm going to share this with, who I'm reminded of throughout this thing, and it's just such a reminder of how human we all are and how we all go through these experiences in different ways and they impact us differently, but we do have that sense of being able to share our light with each other, being able to you know light up all the candles. And I'm just really feeling nourished by this.
Likewise. I feel, yeah. I mean, I've always enjoyed our conversations, but this one is, yeah, this one's interesting. This is a totally different atmosphere. Um, yeah,
Yeah, it's
I'm
so
loving this. This was
yeah, absolutely. I'm loving it too. It is quite different from the rest of our conversations, and probably some of that is a good thing. Just we do tend to get pretty silly sometimes. I'm not going to reference that meme, but oh no, too late. I did it.
Don't do this again.
But Sarah, what advice would you give to someone who is maybe just starting to look into attachment theory or starting to look into self-healing, starting to look into self-care, just wellness in general, or even someone who's looking to use art to explore some of these things?
Um, I think if I had to sum it up, if I had to kind of culminate everything, be willing to let go. And it's something that I think it's applicable for people all across the attachment styles, So for people that are more anxious, it's like, yeah, be willing to let go of control, let go of any assumptions you're holding about the outcome or any beliefs you're tying to that outcome. For people on the avoidant end of things, maybe be willing to admit that you're holding on to stuff so that you can let go of it. That's that would be a good starting point. I might be a little biased there. I love my husband. I do. He is very avoidant. And for artists, yeah, be willing to let go of whatever beliefs you find are holding you back about yourself and art, and whether you can do it or you should do it or it's worth doing, or if you have to figure out how to market yourself or sell it, promote yourself. Let go of it all. Just be willing to let go. It doesn't mean that it'll be let go of forever. It doesn't mean that you have to commit to letting go of everything. But the second you enter into that phase where you're willing to let go of what might not be yours after all, you make a lot of room for what is meant to be yours. And I'm a firm believer that what is meant to be yours is beautiful. It is beautiful beyond anything that you can imagine if you're hanging on to all the other stuff that you're scared to let go of. So yeah, I think that would be where I'd
That is
where I'd put the focus.
incredible. That is absolutely incredible. And I'm really taking away from this conversation this last thing that you said, making room for what is meant to be yours. Wow. Letting
It's
go of,
scary. Don't get me
yeah,
wrong. It is terrifying when all you've had is, your dysfunction is familiar. When all you've had is anxiety and all you've had is avoidance. It is terrifying. Don't let me make it sound like it's easy. Um, you just have to be willing to go through the really scary stuff to get to the really beautiful stuff, because it is on the other side. And building that trust, there's strategies for every step of the way, I think. But yeah, there has to be that willingness first and foremost before any of those strategies can be implemented or even learned about or absorbed or integrated. So yeah, it is scary though. If you're scared, that's okay.
that's beautiful. I'm not even going to add anything to that because there's nothing to add to that. That's just perfect.
You can always add. Any part.
Thank you so much, Sarah. This has just been such an enriching, such a nourishing talk. I know I'm going to be rewatching it a few times just to consolidate some of these takeaways for myself because, yeah, it is.
Consolidate.
It's one of my favorite words these days. Consolidation. Everything is about reinforcement because I encounter so many beautiful things in this world. What am I doing if I'm not reinforcing them and consolidating them? I want to keep them. It's like you said, you make room, you let go of the things that are weighing us down and the things that are holding us back, but we make room for what is meant to be ours. And I think that's the kind of stuff I want to consolidate. And all the things you've said in this talk today are things that I want to consolidate because I think these are things that are meant to be in here, in this garden of my life. So thank you again, Sarah. It's been absolutely lovely talking to you. I'm going to share your links in the description to this video, and I hope that everyone who watches it gets as much out of it as I did. Thanks so much, Sarah.